how a lot of women pick the wrong men, and some of these will apply to men as well. I recently saw a post about a woman saying that she's been through 3 marriages and they've all failed, and she was still criticizing men. I see this a lot. It's easier to blame the entire gender for your inability to find someone healthy. Now, I'm not saying that because you had bad relationships, you're necessarily a bad person. That's not the case. But you have some patterns obviously contributing to that. For a lot of women, they go through a rough relationship and it hurts them. Okay, you're hurt. But they assume that because they're hurt, they're the ones that are innocent and the other person is the villain. And that's actually not the case. Sometimes there are situations where people get hurt, but you're actually the villain. You're the one that did more wrong than the other person. Or sometimes it's both of you. I'm a firm believer that in a relationship, both people usually contribute to the breakup in one way or the other. I even tell men this that I talk to, that even if she cheated or he cheated or whatever, you may have somehow contributed it in small ways. I'm not saying you deserve the cheating. No one deserves to be cheated on, and that person is definitely at fault. But if you're the type of person that's constantly dating someone who cheats, there might be a pattern there that's causing you to pick people who are more likely to cheat on you. Okay, a lot of us have a type, and maybe we say, oh, I like the men with brown hair and brown eyes or whatever it is. But what you don't realize is you also might have a type with personality. And you may not realize that because that's something that a lot of people don't consciously think too heavily about. We might think, okay, I want a nice person, a loyal person, but they end up dating the same person over and over again in different packaging. They just look different. But at some point, you are the common denominator in all of those things. So it's worth considering, is it your choices? You're picking wrong. And I know women hate that argument. I see so many videos. Oh, women just get blamed for who they choose. Yeah. Some women pick men based on the intensity because they feel like it's the chemistry. The man that's like flaky. The man that's kind of got to play your personality. The man that pushes things too fast. And then she later complains that that same man was manipulative, but the red flags were there the whole time. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes the most manipulative, toxic people, they've done this before. Trust me. They know what they're doing. That's why I tell ladies, like, if you're on a first date with a man and maybe he's a little shy, maybe he's a little awkward, maybe he doesn't do things quite right, that man might actually be the diamond in the rough. I know that sounds crazy, but some of those men that might, and I'm not saying all men that are good at dating are bad men. Definitely not. There's a lot of good men out there. But again, sometimes the most manipulative, toxic people, they've got practice in their craft. So they know exactly what they're doing. And sometimes they can give you that thrill, that roller coaster ride, and you're so excited about the relationship. And then sometimes that kind of maybe a little bit boring man, and I mean that in a nice way. He's stable, he's secure. He can feel a little boring. He's actually the best man you can date. You can still be wildly attracted to someone and still have them horrible for you. That's why I tell you, do not overlook all the red flags. And sometimes they're like pink flags. So you're like, okay, noted, you just note it. And then later you see what comes of it. And if it gets worse, okay, great, you leave. If not, okay, maybe. Just keep that in mind. Nobody's perfect. Everyone's going to have some red flags. It also kind of depends on what you're willing to tolerate because we're all imperfect humans. So one person's flaws might be easier to deal with than another person's flaws because your personality can accommodate those flaws. Also, as a woman, you may be attracted to being the fixer. It can feel good to be needed. We all want to be needed in doses. Let's be real here. But some of us want to be needed so bad, we'll tolerate all the red flags so we can fix him. He is not your Build-A-Bear project. If your goal into the relationship is to change everything about him and not encourage him to be who he is, and I'm talking within reason, if there's genuinely bad qualities about him and you're trying to help him through it, that's different. But again, it needs to be within reason. And he has to actually want to fix those qualities. It can't just be things that, he fully intends on doing forever and you're sort of forcing him into it. Also, the woman I was referring to for this video says that she called these men out. Okay, well, where's your accountability? I never see that part. Did you rush commitment? Did you ignore the signs? Were you nice to him? Did you treat him well? Because, if you treat someone badly, they're naturally going to treat you badly right back. You can't expect to be able to just someone and then they're just like, oh, well. Did you create safety so he can be honest with you? Did you communicate clearly? This is one I hear a lot, is women hint, silent treatment, and then they get even more angry and resentful because he didn't understand what she said. You can't play games with him. A man's not going to catch it. And a lot of good men, I've noticed, if you play games with them, they're just going to ignore you anyways. Also, I've noticed women will hide behind, I have standards, to avoid self-reflection. It's easy to be like, okay, this person didn't meet my standards. But they never look at themselves. Can you meet your own standards? Or is what you're asking for reasonable? And the classic, when women hate men. Like, I see videos constantly of women talking about how much they don't like men, or they hate men for this or that, or all men do this, or all men do that. And the problem with having that mentality is if you deep down genuinely believe that men are selfish and untrustworthy, or disappointing, or emotionally unavailable, you may unconsciously pick men to prove you right. Like, I see a lot of women incredibly bitter talking about this stuff all the time, saying that there's no good men out there. And it's like, there's plenty. I personally know a ton of good men. But for these women, finding someone who's familiar to what she's expecting to date can often feel more real to her than an actual stable, healthy man. And then every failed relationship becomes evidence. See, I told you. All men are the same. No, they're really not. But if you believe a story, your brain will find reasons to find evidence to confirm that story. That's why it's important to not think all men are blank. Also, what's your communication style like? Because some of these women who claim that they're treated badly, instead of nicely telling the man, hey, I love it when you're consistent, I need consistency in a relationship, they say something like, oh, you never show up for me. You're never there for me. Instead of saying, hey, I feel really unimportant when you go out with your friends for 12 hours and don't even text me at all. Instead, you say, oh, you only care about yourself. And then in these situations, the man feels attacked and he gets defensive and shuts down. I mean, could you blame him? And again, with this woman, it's like, okay, your first marriage failed. You're not getting curious? Like, it's like, okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. Why is this pattern happening? What am I doing to influence this pattern?